Welcome back to the Audiomo Podcast, episode number 21. We have a lot to go over and not a whole lot of time to do it, so we're going to try and do our best to not tangent like we normally do. Dave, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, wrapping up the week, trying to get stuff done, all that fun stuff.
That's good. Nothing eventful this weekend?
No, not really. Mostly just hanging out. We tried out a new coffee shop this weekend and then went to the library with my daughter who, is obsessed with books. Obviously, she's 17 months. She can't read or anything, but she is obsessed with books. And somehow she finds immediately, we walk into the library and she finds the one book that we've read 1 billion times in our house and she pulls it out. I'm like, there's literally millions of books here. How is it possible? You find the one book we already own. But every time she does it without fail.
Yeah, my kid's done that forever. That doesn't go away. That still hasn't gone away, at least not for mine. Mine's almost 5 years old. But I wanted to start this off. Dave, you did not watch this video, so when I kind of gave you the header of what we were going to be talking about, you were kind of like, what? Are you serious? So, with that being said, I was talking about the Jazzmaster, the Squier 40th Anniversary Jazzmaster that came in. And the basis of this conversation is going to basically be, is it acceptable for a guitar that is like $500-600? This guitar is a $600 guitar. That's what it sells for new right now. Is that acceptable for you to have to do anything to have it reliably function?
I don't think to have it function, I think obviously at that price point, there's things that are like you can be unhappy with, or you can go like, all right, somebody spending $600 should know how to maybe do a setup, right? Like I'm okay with a $600 guitar coming with a bad setup. But I'm not okay with unfunctional parts, right? Like something, you'd have to be comfortable taking apart guitars to do,
Yeah, and I think the major problem here is, I'll try and make this as concise as possible. So what happens is the bridge, it has two little screws, obviously, just like a Tune-o-matic or anything like that, that go into the posts. So what happens is with these, as you're playing and there's downward pressure on the actual bridge itself, they don't stay still, so it lowers. And the only way to fix this is, and this isn't a hard fix, I actually made a video showing how to fix it, but in order to do that, you gotta be comfortable with getting the height exactly where you want it on the bridge, and then you're using the blue Loctite, which isn't permanent, but still, you're using an adhesive to make this thing function properly. And the thing that annoys me about this is, I get Fender Japan guitars, I get Fender American guitars. They know how to fix this. This is not an expensive part. So it's not like they don't have the facilities to do so. They just choose not to. And I would have thought that with the 40th anniversary, this is like the Squier flagship. This is like a big deal to them. They would have done better with that part.
Yeah, it's weird. It kind of makes me wonder, like, when you're talking about quality control, right? Like, what's the reasonable expectation for a guitar going out of the shop in quality control, right? They pick it up, they play it, they check pickups, they make sure they're getting output from everything. I'm sure they do a quick rundown on the fret wires, make sure nothing's like egregious sticking out or whatever. And then it's mostly visual. So like, this is probably an issue that you wouldn't notice unless you sat and played it for a few minutes. And like, on the one hand, totally agree with you, right? No, if I'm spending $600, I should not have to put Loctite on any part of my guitar or think about replacing a bridge or, any of that kind of stuff. But like, devil's advocate here, like, how do they catch this without literally sitting down and playing every guitar that goes through for 10 minutes, right? Like, this is a particularly weird issue, it sounds like it's a machine screw size issue of some kind, like just a shitty set of screws that are holding your posts in, right?
Yeah, but to defend against the devil's advocate, the problem is, this has been a known thing since they started making these with Squiers almost a decade ago. So it's always been a problem with the Squier, Jaguar, and Jazzmaster bridges. It's not new. That's where some people get really hung up like, okay, well, and the other thing is, this community is so complacent about it at this point. It's like they've been beaten by it. They're just like, oh yeah, just, get the Loctite and then put some Teflon tape around the post, do this. It's like, you guys, yeah, I get that this isn't major work. I get that. And it's not. But the fact that you're just okay with Fender, just whatever, we're not going to even bother to fix this after all these years. It's like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah. It's kind of like getting a pedal that doesn't work and then, being like, well, just download a firmware update. And it's like, well, I want it to work out of the box, So, yeah, I get you. And yeah, obviously not being that familiar with Jazzmasters, I don't know what's expected or what's not. I expect it not to be a problem, period. But you know, I don't know. I'm curious as to know like what you would do. Like, how do they catch it? I mean, obviously they have to try to. You know, like what's the process there? And you know, I don't know. I don't know. Does it come with a piece of paper that says, "Hey, your bridge might be fucked up. Here's how to fix it." I don't know.
No, and ironically enough, this particular Jazzmaster didn't even come with the Allen wrench to adjust the bridge. So the only reason I was able to adjust it is because I have a million offset guitars and I had the right Allen key.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a bummer. I mean, I know when you were first taking a look at that guitar, you sent me some shots of it. I was even excited to see how it went. And you know, I know you kind of have your opinion on how the Squiers have been, and I've heard lately that they've been getting better. And you know, I was kind of fingers crossed that it was going to come in. You were going to be like, hey, it's great. So it's a bummer that, you know, this kind of put a damper on it.
Well, the good news is I raved about everything else as far as the guitar goes. The neck on it. And this is so funny to me. I think I would trust them over a Mexican made guitar as far as the fretwork goes and the fret ends go for the most part. And like it literally felt on par with the Vinteras in that sense. And another thing I really liked about the neck was this is strange because it's listed as a modern C, but it's chunky, like by that standards. And I know you're not a measurements guy, so I won't get into it, but it's more similar to like a Gibson 60 Slim Taper. Whereas when I had the Cabronita Squier thin line, which also said modern C, it was substantially skinnier. So I don't know. I don't know why Fender don't just kind of give a little bit more detailed information, because that's kind of important.
Yeah, it's weird. I do feel like with Gibson and Fender in particular, like, I feel like that you're supposed to have some sort of like weird, you know, little guidebook on like what year, and then what the, you know, what their vague description of whatever the neck profile is supposed to be. Like, I know if I'm buying an Ibanez and it says Wizard neck, I know exactly what it's going to feel like. And, you know, I go to any type of Fender, depending on the year, I feel like it could be, you know, totally different, and they'll just say like D or C, and I'm supposed to know that for a 67 that means really thick, but for, you know, a 72 that means like, hey, on the thinner side, you know. It's a little bit weird.
What's funny is you're kind of right on that if you're talking about
totally
Stratocasters.
Yeah.
But I don't know, to wrap this up, the other last thing I wanted to note was I told you, everybody, and I told you, I got this guitar from Tolman, and I linked it, and that was part of the reason I wanted to get this out soon, so that other people could take advantage of the fact that this guitar was available cheaper at $570 shipped. Tolman, somebody saw my video. We don't know who it was, but they got reported, and now Tolman will not send this guitar overseas because of that price discrepancy. Ooh. Which always, honestly, and the only reason it is a price discrepancy is because of currency exchange rates. It has nothing to do with anything other than that. Like, they're not like selling this guitar for less than
underpriced.
Exactly. But the problem is, and one of my viewers just like, I tried to use your link. So first of all, I'm annoyed because it's like, well, shit, like that's an affiliate link that would have, you know, gone towards my score or whatever. But then the second part was, I was so excited to share this with, you know, everybody so that they could get this guitar, because you can't get it right now in the white in America, that he can't get it now. But the moral of the story is this. I'm spoiling something here. I'm selling that guitar. When you guys are watching that today, he actually lives in Florida too. He's going to drive out, and he really wanted it really bad. And I was just like, look, I mean, you saw the video. It is what it is. Like, there's nothing else wrong with this guitar, and I fixed the bridge because, you know, I did the Loctite on it, so it's good to go now. But after sitting and just, like, playing my Jazzmaster more, like my Jazzmaster, it's like, I don't know. I kind of am seeing my wife's point of the duplicate guitars, you know? And the other thing that I want to tie into this is, we were talking about quality control, and even at, like, lower price points, I just got in, that's going to be tomorrow's video, I just got in the guitars I ordered, and the ESP LTD, it sits to me in the same exact kind of space where the PRSs do, in a fact of like, they come out of the box, they're damn near almost in tune as is, they're stable, there's no problems with them. Whether or not you like the pickups or whatever, not a big deal. But as far as like a usable, like, okay, this guitar is good, like, let's go. Those two have to be up there as the best in the business in my book.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, are they setting a bar, like, are they amazing, or are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? You know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, is it that no one else is keeping up, or is it that they're just head and shoulders above everybody else and we shouldn't expect it from anyone else because it's just how great these, you know, in particular, these companies are. And I'm sure you could look at it, you know, either way, depending on how optimistic or cynical you are. But yeah, I totally feel the same way. Like, I've never played an LTD that's had a problem, you know, and those guitars a lot of times sit right in that same exact price range. You know, I have two PRS SEs and they're both, you know, near that price range, at least the semi-hollow body was. And it's incredible. It was incredible when I bought it, and, you know, it still is. And yeah, I don't know. There's some kind of either magic going on there, or everybody else is just really lazy, you know?
I really think it just has to do with the standards and the pride of those two companies, and just like their core values. You know what I mean? Maybe part of it is that they just don't make as many guitars, so the ones that they do make, like, they put a little more into. But I mean, especially when it comes to the PRS, I've had such good experiences with them. I just haven't like found like the right one for me, so to speak. But the one model that, and the reason I wanted to get the Jazzmaster is to have a guitar that I can gig with alongside with the 77 that had the vibrato. But really, now that I'm thinking about this, I really should have gone for one of those used 2408s. And the reason I like the 2408 a little bit more than regular custom 24, whether it's an SE, an S2, or, you know, a core version of it, it has the mini toggle switches instead of a push-pull. So that little trick that I was telling you about before when we were talking about kind of blending in the different pickups and like maybe having a single in the neck, and then when you go into the middle position on the actual selector, it's already right there without pulling a knob. That's amazing to me. So like, I could have gotten that from Dave's Guitar Shop. They sell for it would have been $650 flat to my door, barely more. Or if I had bought this 40th Anniversary Jazzmaster new in America, it would have been the same price. So I don't know. Like, maybe that's a route that I explore later down the road or something like that. But and then the other thing is, I don't have a PRS at the moment. So, and I know how reliable they are. I know how great they are for gigging and even for tracking. So it's just, it makes me think, it's just like, is my loyalty to Fender and my fandom kind of getting in the way of my better judgment?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fair thing to think about at any point, right? I mean, I think if you were the same conversation and all you had was PRSs, we could have the same, you know, the same discussion, right? That at some point it's worth kind of getting out of that comfort zone and trying some other stuff. You know, I mean, I think at this point, like, just from, I don't own any Fenders, right? So I'm speaking from a biased standpoint too, but like, you've got a whole bunch of them, right? It's always like these certain versions of them or where they're being made or whatever, we feel differently about every single one of them. And to this exact point, I never have that feeling about any PRS, right? Regardless of whether it's an American, it's an S2, or it's an SE, it's like, whatever, they figured it out. They cracked the code. They're all great. You know, like, and you can grab anyone for really from anywhere and you're probably going to be fine. And there's something to be said about that. So yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, obviously the Fenders are going to do something that only the Fenders can do, but at this point, I think you've got that, you know?
Yeah, and especially when it comes to a gigging guitar, we're talking about, you know, I've been kind of stressing about sending out something from either the HX Stomp XL or the amp to the PA system and stuff like that. It's like, I'm already compromising sounds, and I'm not bringing the Mesa with me. I'm bringing the Black Star. So at that point, like, if I got an S2 or an SE that had that switching on it, if it gets me 90 or 95% of the way there, you know, like, what the hell does it matter if it's not like perfect as far as like the electronics and the tone goes? I mean, the playability is going to be there. The reliability, the tuning is going to be better than any of the other brands. I mean, it just seems like, I don't know. I don't know why I overlooked it.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point too, like, so, you know, we've been no you know, strangers to talking about how the SEs are great on everything except the electronics, right? And I mean, to that point, like, I bought that, you know, the new the PRS that I have with the maple neck, and, you know, I immediately was just like, yeah, the pickups in this are gonna suck. And then, you know, I've been using it just for tracking like basic demos and stuff, and the more you play around with it, and the more that, like, you start to kind of get into your space with it and you start feeling comfortable with it, it's like I'm running it through like the Soldano plugin, you know, from Neural DSP, and it sounds totally fine. It sounds great, right? Like, maybe it's a little flubbier than I would like and it's a little less well defined, but then I just kind of, you know, I mess with the tube screamer I have before the amp to kind of adjust for it, and you make it work. And yeah, it's probably 96% of the way there, right? And like if I ripped it out, what's in there and threw a nice pair of Duncans in, I'd be 100% to be fine. But like I haven't done that yet because I'm not pulling the trigger on $200, set of pickups for 4%. And, I'm sure that you going through the Stomp or through the Black Star with a decent PRS, even if it doesn't have exactly the electronics you want, it's going to be damn close enough.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the route we're going to be going here, but it was just food for thought, and this whole thing just kind of really made me think about all that kind of stuff, and I don't know, I found it interesting. I'm happy that this guitar is going to go to not only a viewer, but somebody who really wanted it, but now can't get it, and now he's going to get it even less, because I'm selling it to him for an even little bit bigger of a discount here, so everybody wins at the end of the day, but there's 2 new products. You mentioned one line of products. There's one that also I wanted to talk about with you. This isn't guitar stuff. I mean, it is guitar stuff, but it's not guitars. TC Electronics have announced a new pedal in working with Celestion. If that doesn't give you a hint at what it is an IR loader and cab simulation pedal. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty cool. I have not exactly seen the price on it. I just watched the promo vid, and I mean, it's exactly what you expect. It's a guy running his pedal board into this thing, and then, obviously using the different speakers that are available on it. I think there's 25 from Celestion that are preloaded, so really you wouldn't need to buy other ones, like if you were just going for like those kinds of, that kind of vibe, but the fact that it does take in external IRs or third-party IRs, I think that's pretty cool. If the price is right, maybe that's a solution. I just run an AB pedal from that right out to the board.
I mean, I'm going to say the price is right. It's $129. That's a fantastic price. Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
we're doing it. We're doing it. That Stomp's going bye-bye.
I know. Honestly, so I have the Moore, which is literally just this, but from Moore, which is crazy because usually Moore is like, bottom of the barrel price-wise, and this beats out that because I think they're either 150 or 180 new, but it basically does exactly this, and you get the benefit of kind of having maybe some, I can't speak for what the Celestion IRs sound like, but I've heard others in the past that have been good from them as a company. So I'm sure they're good, but yeah, 129, that's a great price. They're doing some cool stuff in this space. They've got that like bigger one that they do that's like you can do different arrays of pedals, and then I might be wrong on this one, but I thought I remembered them doing one that was like a tone print style pedal too, where you could do impulse responses of pickup types, right? Some like, and I believe that Moore also had something like that as well, which I think is a really cool thing that I don't think that anybody's like done correctly yet, or like put it in the right spot. But I think it's a neat idea, and I'd love to like get one to play around with and see if it really works.
Yeah, and once you told me $120, I honestly was expecting it to be like $290. I don't know why I was expecting it to be so expensive. It's TC Electronics, but that's not bad. And then just run an AB, and I'm good to go. I can get rid of that HX Stomp because I don't really use it. I really don't use it, and especially since I've been, tracking with the microphone and all that. I'm not going to be a dead horse again. I just need something that can go right to the PA system. Maybe that does it. Put some extra money in my pocket. I buy myself a PRS 2408, and then we go from there.
There you go. Yeah. That sounds like a good plan, man.
Yeah, I mean, I end up ahead there a little bit. Well, we always say we end up ahead, but I mean, I'll probably cost me $200, but still, not bad, not bad, and I'll be using the gear. But you wanted to mention another thing from Universal Audio, speaking of the tech side of things and that end of it.
Yeah. I was not so much guitar related, but still interesting. So, UAD announced, I think this week, so technically it's. Looks like 6 microphones, I think. So there's the SD1, which launched this week, which is obviously a direct competitor to the SM7B. But I think what's interesting about it is, 1, it's UAD. 2, it's $100 less than a 7B new, which is interesting. And it looks cooler because it's white. So the last one's a personal preference, obviously. But I think it's definitely interesting that it's $100 less. Obviously the 7B is the 7B. It's, a legendary microphone, mostly just because Michael Jackson spit into it. But, and I mean, I'm literally using one right now. I do think that they're really pretty overpriced for what they are. And they're like hard to get a hold of used, especially, you know, during COVID and everything, when everybody was buying them for their streaming setups and whatnot. So like, I think they're a little late, but if they had done this maybe like 6 months earlier, maybe they could have stole a whole bunch of that kind of like SM7B market. But it's cool. I think, I'm sure that it sounds great. It's UAD, right? And at I think it's $299 at $300. Like that's a pretty good, you know, offer. And then they've got a pair of pencil condensers that are coming out afterwards that are $300 for the matched pair, which is also a great price point for a nice, you know, set of pencils. And then they've got a modeling microphone that they're trying to launch, which I don't know how I feel about those. And then they're doing this series of 3 blocks, which are supposed to be basically like, you know, U87, U67 clones, right? So it's some cool stuff. I'm mostly interested in the SD1. You know, I'm sure there's going to be about 1 billion videos coming out comparing it in a 7B, so I'll have to go take a look at a few. But what are your thoughts on UAD and doing some microphones?
I saw the presser for this, and the first thing I thought was this is a Stormtrooper microphone. And I thought that in a cool way, though. It's like,
yeah.
And it's the same thing when I saw the HX Stomp come out in the white. I was like, oh, I almost want to sell my black HX Stomp and get the Stormtrooper one. This looks so much cooler. They get you with colors. But and speaking of colors, the one that stood out to me, and I saw the modeling one too, and I wasn't the biggest fan. I know Slate does something similar like that. A few other brands do. That's not really my thing. The box. The Bach, I think it's the 251 in that surf green, looks so good.
I mean, I think all of them look great, right? There's the surf green, and then there's like maybe more of an army green, and then kind of like a pastel gray blue. Like they're pretty sweet colors. Like UAD, I mean, we said the same thing about their little interface thing that they came out with. They just crushed it on the design front there. It was very cool.
How much are those gonna cost? Do we have a pricing on the box?
Yeah, I just saw it. So they're more expensive. So they're $1,249, $3,000, and $6,000 for the 87, 67, and 251. They're expensive.
So the one I wanted was $6,000.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, and I only picked it on the damn color.
Yeah. So the 251's supposed to be I mean, it's a re-release, but it's of the ELM or ELAM 251, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, even if it gets close, I don't know. I'm not a $6,000 on mics kind of guy.
Dave, I am. That's the one area I have never truly invested in. I think the most expensive microphone I've ever bought was $599. I had a Mojave. I think it was an M1 for a while, and it was a good mic. You know, and I never saw the reason, but and the other thing was just like if we wanted to really do vocals, we would just pay for the damn studio time, you know, and track through the 87, which is what my wife did last time we went in. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the cheapest one is the U87 clone, that's really good because that's still a third of the price of a Neumann.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the box are they're obviously expensive, especially compared to the other ones here, but they're not expensive compared to the, you know, things that they're trying to clone. You know, so I think they're interesting. But like I said, I'm curious about the 7B. Yeah, I don't really care about the modeling mic either. I have a couple of the ML2s, and it's kind of like a neat little parlor trick or whatever to sort of like toss it on a snare or a cab and be able to like fly through some mics. But I kind of find myself never really using it. Like they're better as like spot mics or something, you know, and they're fine. They sound fine on their own. And usually like switching between them, when I switch to like a 57, it just like does all the stuff I don't like about a 57. Like it sounds like a 57, but only in its worst qualities, you know? So it's like, okay, this clearly sounds like a 57 now, but it's just because it has less low end and a high end bump that's kind of harsh and gross, you know? And then like you'll throw a 250, you know, or a 241 or something, and you're like, cool, it's just got a big mid hump or whatever. Like it's not, I don't know. I always end up just turning it off and just using the stock mic the way it is. So I can't imagine it would be great on a vocal situation. I don't know.
No, yeah, and that's the thing about that those microphones you just mentioned. The 57 one I've heard a bit on guitar, and it makes me laugh because it's like you said, but it feels like there's like a gigantic bump from like 4 to 6K for no reason. It's like that's not even what a 57 does. Like it's in those frequencies where those are such a pain in the ass to work with, because it's like if it's just over the top, like if you're using a Telecaster or a Jaguar and you're getting a bump at 4 or 6, or oh my god, just no.
Yeah. I love the idea of the modeling mics. Like, it seems like such a cool concept, and I've never seen them like work in practice, and I don't know. It just feels like every time I see one, I'm like, okay, this is a great mic, and I can make it sound like a bunch of other great mics or whatever. I'm going to use the regular mic and just do some EQing, and I'll get the same thing out of it. And I don't have to like pretend like, oh, it's just emulating. It's like if I want more low end, I'm just going to bump more low end, or I'm going to tell them to sing closer, or or whatever. Like I don't know. I would rather just get a good mic than get a modeling mic. I guess is my sort of way to justify not buying one. But I'm definitely interested in the SD1 and the SP ones, and I'm going to check out some videos. Because I really like the 7B that I have, but I got a really good deal on it. Like, I think I bought it for like $200 off somebody. Because I don't think they're worth spending $400 on new. $300 maybe.
That's why I don't have a 7B. I have no real usage for it, and I don't love the price. But I will say one last thing that I found as a nice touch here. On the box series, they're all handmade in the United States of America.
Yeah, they're from right out of California, right?
And that to me is super cool, especially looking at the lowest price one, the U87 clone, $12.99 from a huge brand that's well respected and known in this circuit. I mean, dude, that's really respectable. I think they've done a good job with that. But yeah, I have to mention this. I was laughing to myself when you were talking about, I just rather have the real thing. I don't want to deal with this or this. It's not quite there yet. And all I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, Dave, you use all the digital stuff for guitars. This is exactly why I can't use the digital stuff for guitars.
Yeah. I will say, I do think that the digital stuff for guitars is farther than the modeling mics, right? Like, I'm not opposed to the idea. It just I've never used one that's wowed me.
You know what? This is going to be it. And then you're going to sell all your mics. You're just going to use this 7B for the stupid podcast we do. And then you're going to have the one universal audio. And you're going to be like, I used it on the snare. I used it on the kick. I used it on the vocals. I emulated everything. Yeah. It's just all perfect. Everything's fake. And I'm going to be like, God damn it. I hate you so much.
I might be a convict. I think the thing that stopped me is like, they're all just like insane. Like the Slate ones, I'm supposed to have the Slate interface with the Slate mics, with the Slate software. It's like, you're like $6,000 in, you end up buying one of the interfaces and like one of those mics and a couple ML2s, like enough to like fill a room. So expensive. And then at the end of the day, you're just going to like, I'm going to filter through all the mics and be like, I'll just leave it on the stock setting, like.
They totally went the Apple and the Apogee route. In that sense, like you're going to need all of our own gear to get the most out of the one piece of gear that you wanted to use. Very smart for business, not exactly the best for the consumer in some cases.
Right. Well, and they did the whole thing where they were like, oh, actually, you can use the Slate mics on any system. It's just going to suck. And then you're like, okay, well... So it's brilliant on their part. Like every time I pull up the mic and I go, this doesn't sound great, I just go, it's because I'm using a Focusrite. When it could just not sound great. I have no idea. I've never used one of their interfaces, so I don't know.
And to bring this full circle, it reminds me of the people that are just fine with the classic vibe offset bridges. Oh, it's fine. It's just because it's just a natural problem. I just need to put some Loctite and some Teflon on it. It's not a big deal. I'm the problem here. I'm the problem. If I was using a better bridge, or it's funny. It's funny. They get us. They get us to think that we're the problem here. No, your products sometimes need work, and that goes for some people, not everybody. Some of you guys make really good stuff. But yeah, we wanted to keep this quick tonight, and you know what? This has been really fun, kind of rapid fire and not going off on too big of a tangent. Dave, do you have anything else you'd like to add today?
I don't. I think we hit all my brain has capacity for.
Good. I will leave you with one question then, okay? If I get a 2408, do you think it's worth it to do the S2? Because I know I could get a deal on that. I have a good relationship with the shop. I could get a deal on that. Or is it worth it to buy a used SE?
I'm going to think about it, and I'll come back. We'll talk about it in the next one.
Okay. I'll see how it goes. Thank you all for watching. Tomorrow will be regularly scheduled content. I'm going to be showing you guys the 3 guitars that showed up over the weekend from Pitbull Audio. And I'm going to be asking your opinions. I really look forward to seeing what you guys say as far as what you think the perfect guitar demo/review would contain. Until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a good start to your week. Take it easy.